hot, humid day, and this is Sunday, there were thousands of people there. I mean, it was amazing. And the biggest surprise for me was that most of them, they were from Spain, South America, Central America, because they have a value, they do believe, and among those people, there were hundreds of priests and nuns. You saw that they were, which is fascinating. I mean, it was a shock for me to see something like that. And in fact, the first time I heard outside Puerto Rico about Our Lady of the Well was with the Spaniard in Spain. Yeah, I was in Spain, in Zaragoza, and he was a student of modern phenomena in the Catholic Church, and he was talking about Our Lady of the Well. I mean, it was just really impressed me. And then after that, to see the impact that this image of Virgin Mary has had in Latin America and Spain. I mean, it's just because that doesn't happen in Puerto Rico. You know, just few people there. You can go to the sanctuary, nice, but just to see there thousand, I mean, over 50,000 people. It was really something that I didn't expect. But anyway, these are the saints that we have only in Puerto Rico. Okay, now we're going to go, the last one actually. This is the most powerful hand, and it is like this. Anybody recognize the people there? Well, of course, look, by the color of the eyes you will know which one is. No. It is called the most powerful hand because it's the hand of Christ, the right hand of Christ, and you see there is a nail in the hand. And then it has from right to left, of course, Christ as a child, Mary, Joseph, Saint Anne, which is the mother of Virgin Mary, and then Joaquin in Spanish, which is the father of Mary. And this was really common in the 19th century, but it was like religious stamps, you know, things like that. But again, you will not see this carving in the church, in the Catholic Church, because there is distance there. There is another one that actually also, yeah, I can say that it was in the hit parade in the 19th century, and it's this one, the most here, Forsaken Soul, you know. No, it is not. People have said that these are bananas upside down. No, these are flames.
Those are flames.
Fire from the purgatory. Yeah, and it is associated with Virgin. Yeah, there's several jokes about this. But anyway, this image is associated to Our Lady of Mount Carmel. You know that people pray and for the souls in purgatory, and then she's one of them. But what is interesting is that, like with the three kings, they were pagans, they were not Christians. When they went to see Christ, this one was not a saint because, you know, she's still being purified, so she's still in sin. But it was a very important carving in late 19th century and early 20th century. And still you see it on and off in talking about in fairs. I personally love it. And then in Spanish is El Anima Sola, and in English, the most forsaken soul. You know? And we all have felt that lonely or alone sometimes in our lives, you know. So, but it had a very strong attraction during that time. Yes. Okay, this is that we have here is what is called, and it was briefly but significant, the primitive style. Any idea why they call it primitive? Look at their simplicity. Look at the geometric forms. They're grabbing the essence of that image. Here, of course, to the right is Virgin and Child. I don't have any other, it's a Virgin and Child, no other attribute. And then the ball on the head probably is a crown. And then here are the three Marys, las tres Marías, without the three kings. This, yeah, you could see this in the church, praying. And they were the ones who found Christ when he resurrected. They were close to the tomb. But to me personally, the fascinating thing is look at the simplicity of the line, the style, that they have taken away almost everything. And it's just really impressive to me, just something like that. This was around late 1900, early 20th, and after that, actually, saints in Puerto Rico began to look simpler in their lines. Think of how it started with the Espada family. They were just like in Spain. And look at this. This is interesting because here you see Mary and her child. And it's the only thing that I say because it has no other attribute. So my assumption is the Virgin and Child. The only assumption that one can present is that Saint Anne and the child Mary, but usually when you see that image of Mary with her mother, and she is a 5-6-year-old girl, not a baby. So what is significant of this is that the carver on the left was a woman, and the carver to the right, her husband. And it is interesting because Jose Ramos and Justina Ramos, and this is around late 19th century, early 20th century. He died in 1904. No, Justino, but oh, I'm sorry, no, Jose. She's Justina, and she died about 40 years later. She was young when they got married, and she kept carving. So that is a phenomenon that we're going to continue talking about here. Yeah. Here, this is another Benigno Soto. Look at, again, I was showing you here the face again. Look at the style of the face and the serrated hands. Look at that, those hands. I have seen images of Don Benigno Soto with average hands. I know that they just put them there because this is not his style at all. This is his style. And you can see there too. But you see there is a lady of the sorrows. She has a knife in her heart, but look at her face. You see, again, the feelings are divorced from the circumstance in which they are. Here we're talking about important people. This is on Zoilo, Cajigas, and Sotomayor. He lived to be into his 90s, and he died in the 1960s. You could see him. This is exactly how he lived. He was always very poor. Actually, he will sell his. He also wanted to buy at the time because people were not interested. For $2, $3. Now there are thousands of dollars. I can say, and that's why I brought this. I didn't know that, but the Museum of Las Americas several people who know more about Santos, they said that probably this is one of his carvings. Again, look at the proportions, look at the face. Hey, he's standing up there. Hey, everything is okay here. But look at the lower extremity is smaller than his torso and hands. But again, standing up, look. Blood in price and paint started close to the 1200s. And of course, it continued. We all have seen, probably most of us have seen the painting of Velázquez where there's price, all this blood. When the Spaniards came to Mexico with Montezuma, you know that they would take the hearts out, the blood everywhere. They had a party with the crucifix, you know, because they could relate to it so well. I'm sure that many of them became Catholics, you know. I like that one. You'll see, usually his work, actually he was fairly careless, and he would use bold colors and silver paint in oil. But then at the end, it was just an amazing. Here, I want to show you. Look, this is a paint, and how he was careless actually, you know. In some of the areas, it's. But when he finishes the part, and this is a Milagro de Hormiguero again, because you see the ox and you see the basket maker. That's why you know who he is. In the 50s, the Institute of Puerto Rican Culture through Don Ricardo Alegría actually produced this film El Santero, the Santo Maker, and he was old. I mean, this is about that time, and he after that people, his neighbors who thought he was half crazy because weird the way he dressed, his beard, sometimes it's more cut than others. But then, after seeing his life, people really admired them, and collectors. After here, not paying $2 for a carving, and now paying thousands and thousands of dollars for one of him. You know, it's just impressive just to see how things have happened that way. Here we go to the Caban family. This is the family who have created the most carvings of Santos in the 19th century and the 20th century. They are from Camuy, the northeastern part of the state. There are three generations, at least that I know of, three generations of Caban Santeros. Edwigis, which is the father, and then his son, Quiterio, interesting names. And then the sons of Quiterio, Florencio, Manuel, and Ramon. Manuel, the middle one, was the last one to die in 1962. Actually, Don Ricardo Alegría wanted to film a documentary on Don Florencio Caban. They had a strong relationship. And, but then he died. So then Don Ricardo Alegría, he knew all these saints. And another person in the history of Puerto Rico, very interesting, who was actively involved was the wife of Luis Muñoz Marin, the governor, Inez Mendoza, the Muñoz Marin. People were surprised. She would go to the houses, really very humble houses. You saw that Don Suelo Cajigas, he slept in his hammock, in la hamaca. Very poor people. They didn't, you know, this is what they wanted to do, but they only got a few dollars. And she would go and visit them in their homes. I mean, that was, for some was a scandal, and then for others, oh my God, it's really admirable, because it's not expected to see the wife of the governor in these places. I already said that this is, they were able to carve the most Santos. Here I have some uh, of them. Oh, I thought I did. See it again? No, I don't see it now. Oh yeah, I can believe it. Oh, I got it too close to my nose. This is a Trinity. I haven't done anything with it. I haven't gone to every store. I wanted to keep it this way. As you could see here, the carvings are somewhat proportioned, symmetrical, their hands mostly extended forward, and overall simple and stylized. Look at this. And that most of the Santos, one way or another, after them, they look like this. I mean, all the carvers. I mean, that's something, not exactly, but this is to be expected at some level. And we'll talk more about it soon with others. Talking about expression, normally for some reason I don't like much the crucifix, but these two I do, and I have had them for over 40 years. This is US made. People gave it to you. And look, and he says, oh man, he looks like a teenager. Look at his expression. This cross, like in the Romanesque period. You will see, I mean, there is no issue there. I mean, he knew that he had to be in the cross, and then after that he's going to die and resurrect, and okay, no problem. Not like after the Gothic, that when the pain started, and also to influence people, and look, he suffered from me, what am I going to do, blah, blah, blah. Up until Romanesque, that didn't happen in the images that they had. It was because, of course, they were used to influence the way we behave, and then sorrow is important because, you're a sinner, so what are you going to do to be less of a sinner, blah, blah, blah. And they use the crucifix as an example. Look at this, Christ died for you, and what are you doing? That didn't happen before the year 1200, more or less, in Europe. And that to me is very attractive. When I see a carving like that, where emotion is suspended, to me, I find that personally very attractive. Yeah, here just some examples of the work of people, and this is more modern, the tools that they use, but this is mostly modern. But I just wanted you to have a taste of it. When you go to Puerto Rico, oftentimes, is in space, and then there you are carving with them. It's just amazing. And you will see their tools. Some of them, they make their own tools, those who have the ability to do it. So here now, we're getting into the 20th century almost. The political convulsions in Puerto Rico, that was the invasion of the United States into Puerto Rico in 1898. These were some of a cartoon, and also the New York Times showing that invasion. Things began to change radically in the island for many reasons. But again, I'm sticking to Santos. So, what is happening is with this Hispanic-American War, that actually some historians from the United States state that there is evidence that the U.S. created that situation to be able to, because it was growing as an empire, to grab his backyard, which was the Caribbean, to go further to South America. And then, I recognize that one. Anyway, so what happened was that here comes 1898, and who comes to Puerto Rico by the 1900, 2 years later? Protestant ministers. And of course, what happens with the Santos, they are considered pagan idols, because you can have Jesus, but that's it, and some of them, because in others, no. So what happened with this was the beginning of really a social and economic um, convulsion in the island. Uh, the Santo carvings were actually in danger now. So, and it continued really affected adversely, profoundly. What happened was Puerto Ricans, of course, in Puerto Rico everybody had Santos, but now those Puerto Ricans who converted into the new religion, the Protestant one, they had some bonfires and bring all the Santos and to burn them, or ceremonies to bury them to show that they have converted to this other religion. And others just thrown away, and in that way tens of thousands of Santos were lost in that whole process. All the external Catholic practices were challenged. Of course, we were a colony. Actually, when the U.S. invaded Puerto Rico, we had an autonomy that we haven't had since. We had, they could trade with South America, Puerto Rico. I forgot to bring in a silver dollar, Isla de Puerto Rico, stamps. I also have a bunch of stamps from that period of Puerto Rico. And by the way, I found that in the 90s, I got them in Cuba. I was there, and I couldn't believe it. Stamps and coins from Puerto Rico there. So after that, still we are not part of the United States. We belong to the United States. I mean, we are a non-incorporated territory. So, and that's the last thing that I would say about that. Santos. Okay, now other factors actually endanger the work of Santo carvers. Look at these.
Plastic.
The plastic and plaster. It was industrialization, and also aesthetics. Aesthetic was changing. Mass-produced religious images made of plastic, and as you can see there, bright colored, doll-like figures, Barbies. Yeah. And they had a wider selection of them. And also they were prettier than the Santos that you see. And in fact, some, with industrialization, of course, Santeros were presented as backward, ignorant peasants, and that is a thing throughout, and we'll hear more about it soon. And some priests, foreign priests in Puerto Rico, talking about the Santos and being grotesque, and they wouldn't bless these hand-carved Santos. That is something very different. I mean, when I think of New Mexico and Puerto Rico, except with the espadas, I haven't seen Santos carved by Puerto Ricans in churches in Puerto Rico. Perhaps they are somewhere, but I haven't been in that church. And I have been in many of them. Again, I am not a practicing Catholic, but I am very interested in the Santo carving. In New Mexico, you will see a style completely different than ours, but still very interesting. And you'll see them in many churches in New Mexico. Which is, let's look at that. They knew how to deal with the marketing, perhaps, I don't know. But in New Mexico, you see that, you have that.
Excuse me, it's good that you mentioned that because the phenomenon of the Santos de Palo is not only in Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. I mean, just briefly, right now, the level of sophistication that we have, there are three spots in Latin America. Understanding that the Santos have been in all Latin America. First, the Spaniards bringing their own, and then they created in Brazil, Colombia, beautiful Argentina. Also, actually, Bert, you got me an old Santo in Argentina when you were there. So that is, it is, and in Cuba, when I was in Cuba immediately, where are the Santos? I mean, I wrote, yeah, we carve Santos. I didn't find one place. When I was in Havana, and I was in Camagüey, and in between, I didn't see one Santo. And that doesn't mean that they don't carve, okay? But I didn't see. But there are these three centers, Quito, Ecuador, Puerto Rico, and the state of New Mexico, realizing that Mexico, Guatemala, they have had beautiful history. I mean, you go to the museums the art museums in Nuevo Mexico, in New Mexico, and it is really beautiful to see that. I mean, but anyway, and that doesn't mean that we're the best or anything. No, it isn't that way. But right now, the energy in Santo carving is amazing. And then, by the 1940s, things began to change. It has been, but they are mostly Baroque. When you go, it is the Baroque style, which is traditionally because they had, again, the riches that they had centuries ago. And then the tradition continued, and at that time, to me personally, it's beautiful, the Baroque, but to me it was like a plague that came through Europe. And Europe also, for these beautiful Romanesque and Gothic churches, boom, they had to redo so much, so to make them look more Baroque. To me it was like an epidemic, unfortunately, from my perspective. Other people say, oh, that's beautiful. But anyway, moving right along, because I look at the time, and God, still, I would like to have a conversation with you. I feel that I have a monologue, but okay. But other, of course, the factors that actually did damage to Puerto Rico. But here we have these Dominicans, and the reason why we have these Dominican priests from Puerto Rico is because since the beginning we have had Dominican priests. As I said earlier, I mean, Portacelli, it was built by the Dominicans in 1606. What Santos' fortune began to change was, these are precursors. Here, the reason why I put this is that in Bayamón, Puerto Rico, there has been always a Dominican community. And back in 1933, they got a collection of Santos made by Santeros, and they brought it to the Netherlands, because most of them were from the Netherlands, and that was the head of the Dominicans at the time. I don't know if now, but and I see that priests who have lived in Puerto Rico for over 40 years, Dominicans, from the Netherlands. And what they did was they brought them, and then there was an international exhibition of the artwork of priests that brought from throughout the world where the Dominicans are. So that was the first time that Santos were exhibited, and it was in the Netherlands in 1933. In Puerto Rico, starting for 1946, one day I may have this. Okay, I have to get this. Dr. Fernando Monserrate, in 1946 he began to collect. He saw the first Santo, he loved them, he said, no, I want to have more. So he went and made a collection of, he had a collection of over 200 Santos. And then he made arrangements, so he went to Cooper Union University in New York City, And he had an exhibition. It was in 1953, and this is the catalog of that exhibition. Carolyn found it. Okay. It's so, but as you see, it's all outside the island. Then going back to the 40s, El Mundo, the periodico El Mundo, a local newspaper in Puerto Rico, most of us know about it because it stopped not a whole long time ago. He published an article of Santo collection of Francisco Sein, a person who had this beautiful collection. And then in 1947, but again, all these exhibitions outside the island. In 1947, Dr. Ricardo Alegría, he was the director of the Art Museum at the University of Puerto Rico, promoted and actually featured the first permanent exhibition of Santos in Puerto Rico at the university. Many members of the university decried such action as they, again, considered santeros, ignorant peasants, unworthy of having their work in their art museum. And Don Ricardo Sarias about popular culture clashed with the prevalent concept of culture supported by the academic elite at the university. Many of them were foreigners, but some were also Puerto Rico because of value judgment. And Don Ricardo insisted that culture in the country encompassed all the people's manifestations, not only the refined aspects of that group. Then their popular culture begins to emerge as a valid expression in the culture of the country. Actually, some interns, students with Don Ricardo Alegría, they, again in the 40s, that happened, they gathered information about Don Zoilo Cajigas and also Florencio Caban, and that's how we had that, the film that I spoke of earlier. And then here comes, this is on Florencio Caban, in the book that Don Ricardo Alegría wrote. No, I don't think I brought it here. I brought some books for you to take a look. But anyway, I'm very conscious now of time, but I'll be calm. I will not rush. And what happened was in 1955, the Institute of Puerto Rican Culture was funded. This is a picture. This is Caleta de las Monjas in Old San Juan. Look at the cobblestones, beautiful as always. This is Hotel del Convento. It used to be a convent of Carmelites. That gave impetus with other people, including again Doña Inés Mendoza, the wife of Muñoz Marín, to strengthen the influence of the El Instituto de Cultura Puertorriqueña. Yes, that was really very strong. And first they started with the Institute. They wanted to protect the buildings of the architecture of Old San Juan, because what it was happening was that those buildings were being demolished. The old one, the centuries-old buildings. And Don Ricardo Alegría said that have to stop. And then through the Institute of Puerto Rican Culture, that was one of the first tasks that Don Ricardo got involved. And here, again, Inés Mendoza was involved in this, and other people of influence, that they were able to stop the destruction that it started. It is not, but the moment was when a beautiful gem of a building was demolished, and it was such a scandal that just people were receptive to say, listen, we have to stop. And then after that, it was the function, especially through the Institute of Puerto Rican Culture to protect the the, uh, the buildings, the structures in Old San Juan. And now you see Old San Juan today is really the marvelous place to see. And then, but it was not all. They look at all the popular arts, the Mundillo, the Paja, talking with the Santos, and now there were fairs. Also work in clay, pottery, just really beautiful. And then it continued like this, and then through these, you see the fairs, what they did was increase the visibility and the value of the Santos. And then here, in all this in the 80s, what we see is the ascension of women carvers in the island. That had not happened before with such force. And it was to see how there were some women who began to work. And the way they did it was, sometimes it was their husbands who were the directors in the house, and then but everybody had a function to accomplish. And then that's how women began to be noted in the 80s and then the 90s. The Institute of Puerto Rican Culture also offered these carving workshops, free. You paid only for your instruments, your carving tools, and the wood. And I was privileged enough, I'm talking about almost 20 years ago, that still they have that, and that's how every year I went to Puerto Rico and always carving. When it was not in the workshop, it was with other carvers, and I have been doing that since. We'll see how these women, and this is back in the 90s, some of them, several of them, they are very noted today because of their artwork. There is Iris Torres. She loves to work hardwood. This is mahon, a very hard wood. This is, of course, a Montserrat, as you can see. But also she works with bones. Like her family, her son also does that. Look, it's a piece of wood. This is a female torso. As you can see, she looks for the right bone, she gets it, and then she's right now looking for a bone, for a male torso that I want to have. So she's looking for it. Her son, Gabriel, look, have these 3 kings also out of bone. Talking about expressions away from the wood in carving. This is, as you can see, well, a bone, but it's an angel. You see the wings there and the face. And we'll see that there is a diversification in the art of carving beyond wood. Like right there is 3 kings made out of clay. So, yeah, you continue to, yes. This is Iris Torres. You will see her, in fairs. This is really fairly new in Puerto Rico to see women doing that, and there are others. This is Nitza Toste. Her style of working is the whole piece is one. Like you see the base and everything else is just one piece of wood. And that's what she does. It takes a great deal of time. This is one of the older, Obdulia Gracia. She died in the late 80s, early 90s, in Jayuya, up in the mountains. She has her specific style. And then Carmen Tañón, this is the cousin of Olga Tañón, the singer. Actually, she carved 3 kings image that it was given to John Paul II, to the Pope, when he came to visit Puerto Rico, because they found that that was the of the carvings that they had, the one that expressed the most dignity, and it was a woman who did it. Here we see the Santos de Palo, how it is. Remember earlier you saw that Jesus that only you saw the skeleton. This is an old one. This is a new one. It's an old one, but I just wanted to show it with a Christ child. Also, it's the same style, but then you put the clothes on. There is a book there that is happening more and more in Puerto Rico. This is Carmen Rodriguez, and she's an amazing carver. I mean, here, these ones here belong to her. She's a very generous, wonderful person. She grew up in Calle, very poor. She came to study, and Don Ricardo said, "Hey, you should go to Mexico and study art." And she did, and for 18 years she went to la Universidad Autónoma de México, el Colegio San Carlos Borromeo is the art school. And she's evangelical. That was a funny thing. And then so she started carving because she has these huge sculptures at home. She even taught at school in Mexico. She spent 18 years there, but the whole thing is she didn't have the money for the foundry, so she has them at home. But then she started to use wood, and 25 years ago, she started to carve very small pieces because she works in the Museum of Las Americas. She restores the wooden sculptures there. And then when there are exhibitions from other parts from South America, usually Latin America, to the Museum of Las Americas, they have these pieces of wood to protect the paintings, and usually are made out of cedar. And if you see the pieces that she uses are really thin, at least because she uses that as her mode of expressing herself. So here I have, which I have here, this is a Guadalupe, another woman, Evelyn Vasquez. It is an amazing, of course, you're far, so you cannot see, but look, from this piece of wood, look at what she had done. And it's only, here you have Guadalupe, but also Juan Diego is underneath. I mean, this with the appropriate light is just wonderful. And the next one, this is from Felix. It's a great carver. This is actually ebony, the wood. He lost like 5 knives to finish this because ebony is such a hard wood. And then Ausubo is also very hard wood. I know that in my grandmother's home of the 19th century, the nails in the wooden house, they were made with Ausubo wood. That gives you an idea. And then aceitillo also is a hard wood. And he worked on it, and it's just beautiful. I wasn't even going to say anything about it, but it's just important. You know, in the interest of time, what I want to do is see the importance of the women today in the carving. I mean, they are now equal than men. I mean, they go to competitions. Oftentimes, women win over men. I mean, so that, I mean, after 30 years, one sees a big difference in that. Now, let's move back to the United States. This is about 3 years ago. I offered a workshop to students for 3.5 months in Providence, Rhode Island. And each one of them, 12 students, they carved their Santos. And it was just really a wonderful experience for me. Just something brief that I say how it is, okay, carving Santos, but what happened, we were in the first week of 3.5 months, and I asked something, and then one student responded, and then this another one says, "Hey, you mother," and everybody look at me, not at her. What are you going to do? You know, the taboo word there, right there, the first week, and I just thought for a second. I said, "Hey, you're here to carve. I don't care how you talk to each other. As long as you are carving, just keep going." You know, after 3.5 months, I never heard one taboo word with that group. I mean, it was just, I ignored it. No, this is why we're here, but not saying that you don't say that, please. Anyway, yeah, this was, and then this is from another workshop. This is 5 months. This is Fidel. Talking about free expression in color. This is Montserrat, but look at this. No, Montserrat looks like this. To me, she looks more like Mexican. But she's struggling with that. And that is something when a person begins to carve, that how to put it inside the tradition, the Puerto Rican tradition, is a challenge, you know, because they want to do something else. But her work is just beautiful and very, very dedicated. And this is again in Providence. I see that Providence, Rhode Island has an infrastructure for things like this because of the gamma of popular art that they have. Yeah. This is the other person, Lydia, who participated in this intensive, that was through several cultural groups in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and also Rhode Island, of course. And this is the Virgin. You see this, the Virgin of the Sorrows with the knife there. No expression. I feel good about it. Yeah, and this is a collaborative. They were so into it that they kept carving. This is a collective effort. St. Joseph, Lydia carved him. Mary, it was Fidel. Jesus was Lydia, and the angel was Fidel. And the rooster was Lydia, and then Fidel, the lamb, and also the star. And they just put all this energy there. I mean, just beautiful. It's 2 hours for me to go there, but it's worth it. And here, the last part is just to see how the Santo carving had transcended art in other mediums. By Lorenzo Mar, which is a titan in art in Puerto Rico from the 50s. Look at the three kings playing their instruments. And then here Maldonado to the left. How is that the images have transformed? Yeah, transformed. Here is again Montserrat, but look how modern it looks. So yeah, and again other prints allusive to the Santos, and also this one. And this one, I love this, San Pedro, St. Peter, and it's here. It's and Caroline carved it. It's the second one that she had carved, and then here is San Francis, the first one. Again, you see a bird, you know it's St. Francis. You see a child, St. Anthony. Then you see the key there, and also from birth we have here Santa Barbara. Beautiful, interesting setting. This is free expression, of course. Look how the presents that they have, and also these three kings. I'm sorry that we didn't have a conversation, but I really enjoyed being with you, talking about that. It was a monologue of 8. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. Yeah, don't stop.
I do actually.
Yes.
What is some of your work? Actually, I don't know if you printed it out.
Say that again.
Some of your own work?
Oh, my own. Yeah, they are here. If you, this is Saint Paul, Saint Patrick, Saint. Oh, this is like almost 18 years old, but I love it. And Saint Joseph. I tried putting a blue outfit. It didn't look well because he's a boy. The pink was, the pink is. Yeah, it just really makes it beautiful. And then this one, also this one is mine, and this one. I want to point out to this pesebre boricua. It's a Puerto Rican manger. It was carved by Luis Raúl Nieves Roman. He also writes books. He wrote, Tallando de Semillas is a record back from 2010, one of the top records in Puerto Rico. Not by how it was sold, which was sold, but it was because of the quality of it. It's beautiful, and this is him. You don't see him, he's black, so the picture doesn't allow unless you get closer. He's an amazing person. I just love him. We're very close. We speak about once a month. But his work is at the Smithsonian. It is also at the Hispanic Museum in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, New Mexico, and others. Felix right now, he is the same one who built this. Right now he's carving a 6-foot king. And this is Los Fonalleras, the people with money in Plaza Las Americas, but also they have one stop there in Ponce. And he has shown me, I was going to bring them, and I just didn't have time to call you to do it. But anyway, you could see this sculpture and then just almost finished. It's just glorious. But think about it, just 6 feet tall. Just amazing. I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I was fortunate enough to grow up in Puerto Rico. I left when I was 18, but my grandfather was from Morovis. And my mother was from Camuy.
Oh my God.
But we never had Santos de Palo at home.
Yeah.
But my grandfather did.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about hormigueros,
Yes.
my mother would have this promesa to go to hormigueros
Exactly.
because she was born the 8th of September and her sister too. So I grew up with the Virgen de la Monserrate,
Sí.
but my grandmother, her mother was from Islas Canarias, and we grew up with La Virgen del Carmen.
Yes.
But that pilgrimage, La Virgen del Pozo, my father had a promesa to go there every Thanksgiving. But La Virgen del Pozo is 1951, whatever it was.
1953, yes.
53, so, it has nothing to do really with the Santos themselves. And I just wanted to add, when you were talking about Montserrat in Barcelona,
Yeah.
I happened to be there twice, which I recommend everybody here to save your money and go. It was one of my best experiences in my life. And what happens is La Virgen de Monserrate is so small.
Yeah, it is something like this. It's
Yeah, and you just get to see her once. They allow you to go through this passage, which is kind of a tunnel.
At the
You go by
sanctuary.
the altar and then you exit. I did it.
Montserrat,
I did it about 10 times because everybody was pushing, but I really wanted to see her. But I've done research in medieval studies, mainly the cult of the Virgin Mary in the 13th century. So it was the monasteries which created the cult, mainly in France and Spain. And it was Alfonso X, Alfonso X, who recovered for the first time the tradition of the Virgin Mary, not in Latin, but in Galician.
Yeah.
And they put this book together of all the miracles. So there you have the music, there you have the comics, in a way, what the miracle was all
Yeah.
about. And
The
you
narrative.
also, and you have the narration, it becomes a performance in the church. But I wanted to say, I've read about the black tradition of
Yeah, the
Virgin,
Black
of the
Madonna.
Virgin in Spain, the Black Madonna, and the Orthodox Church. It is believed, and it's only a theory, that what happened was when candles were lighted, the image became dark, and
Yes.
they couldn't remove the smoke. And it seems that because of that, the color itself, some of the virgins were carved in dark skin.
Yes.
So that's how the tradition got started and the cult
Oh, look at that.
itself.
Yeah, it's, yeah, thank you. Do you have
Yeah.
anything written?
No,
Oh, I would love to.
no.
Say that again?
Que hay un Cristo negro también.
Oh,
Sí, Cristo Negro
Yeah,
también.
yeah, un Cristo negro.
Yeah, even in Argentina and Chile, I think there are two Cristo Negros.
And another thing is that you mentioned the Smithsonian. What
Yeah.
is the best?
Oh God, the Smithsonian has
Uh-huh.
of the collection. Actually, this is the poster, the last one. The collector's vision of Puerto Rico, la visión de un coleccionista. That is Don Teodoro Vidal, and he donated. Some people say sold. Who knows? This collection, not only Santos, over 900 Santos. And back in 1998, 99, it was 2 years, they had this exhibition of Santos. There were over 700 Santos, and the way it was installed, I spent there 2 days. I mean, I just couldn't believe, because the way they did it was glass, in back and in front, so you could see all the Santos around. And then also paintings, of course, by Jose Campeche from Puerto Rico. It's amazing. I mean that, and I'm so happy, about now the conditions in which they are, all these carvings and artwork. But on the other hand, they are not in Puerto Rico. And in addition to that, only when they have exhibitions they come out, and I haven't heard of an exhibition since that time. So I saw pictures. A friend of mine who went inside the Smithsonian and where they keep them and to protect them at ideal temperature. It looks like a morgue. You get them out of that metal thing. It really was very beautiful. Yeah. But any other comment or
Yeah, I want to comment on St. Joseph,
yeah,
because it doesn't have the flower, meaning
yes,
that he was pure.
yes.
And I love this, because I like without the flower.
Yeah, usually it's the lily that they
The
put. I
lily,
decided,
so he is pure, he's good.
Yeah.
I like St. Joseph, he's like that.
Yeah, and my last comment about now talking about St. Joseph, if you look at the Middle Ages, which is honestly my favorite period in history, but the way St. Joseph is treated, usually in the sculptures, they are San Jose is behind an old man in his workshop. He was a carpenter.
Yes, he was.
And then for the Gothic period, St. Joseph, still an old man in the background. It was the Jesuits in the 19th century said, hold it, he was the father, the foster
Jesus.
father of Jesus. What is that we are doing? And then that was what changed the view of St. Joseph, the way we have now as, Joseph and the Virgin. Even when you see the sculpture of Altagracia, the patron saint of República Dominicana, Dominican Republic, you will see her, and then in the background, you see St. Joseph, but not next to her.
Yeah.
So which is fascinating how, and it was the Jesuits who started doing that in the 19th century. Fascinating. Yeah.
I have a question about.
It's okay, yeah.
It's about the horses. Do you know when is the tradition began of putting
Yes.
the 3 kings in horses rather than in camels?
Yes. I can tell you that happened over 1,000 years ago. Of course, it was not in Puerto Rico. It was, if you look in Catalonia, the three kings, and by the way, in Puerto Rico and the Caribbean, here, this is from Senor Rodriguez from Jayuya. He died, but he didn't like to paint them, which is very unusual. But he used darker wood for Melchor. For us, Melchor is the black king.
Yes.
In southern South America and Spain, Baltasar is the black. In other regions, also in Latin America, that I cannot say because I don't know. But this is how the horses, you will see prints from Catalonia, where beautiful prints. Actually, I have one print where you see the three of them in horses. And from there came, I haven't seen a carving from Puerto Rico, which has a camel. They all have horses, you know. So, but that tradition I know at least because I have seen more than one print in Catalonia of the three kings with their horses. You know, well, they didn't have camels, and then again, this is in the neighborhood, you know. Like Puerto Rico, the same thing, you know. But listen, in the interest, we can be here till 9 o'clock. Of course, I'll be alone. Maybe hopefully not. But thank you very much for this opportunity.